Hello and welcome to Galactic Goddess Podcast. I'm your host, Radha Nelia, and today we have a very, very special guest, Kory Muniz, who is a holistic healer, an activist, and a contributing writer for Pillars of Light Stories of Goddess Activations. Hello, Kory.
Hello, Radha. So good to hear your voice.
Oh, it's so great to hear yours as well. Today we're going to talk about becoming your own leader, and also how this relates to Goddess Activations, as well as her chapter, Kory's chapter, and embodying being a pillar of light. So,
can't wait.
Yes, I think it's so important. What we were talking about earlier, becoming your own leader, and that's really what this book is about as well. Is that we are realizing that it's time for us to come online to our true selves, come online to our gifts, come online with our uniqueness, because we are not going to be like everyone else, and we have to embrace our differences and our uniqueness. And actually that's where our brilliance lies, don't you think?
Absolutely. And it also helps get rid of a lot of disappointment, because when we tend to focus on other people and give our power to other people, then we diminish ourselves. And when they do something that is not in alignment with us, we tend to crash and burn.
Yeah.
So who do you turn when you're used to turning to somebody else when something goes wrong, and you don't understand that the person that all the answers are within each and every one of us independently as individual souls and human beings on this planet. And no one else can know our full life experience. So how can they possibly navigate for us? They can help us and they can show a light, and we can learn from their experiences, of course, but I think we've been taking on their experiences as our truths for far too long. And I think that when the energy and frequency of the goddess was diminished and stepped on and covered over, the intuition and the inner knowledge that we are our own sovereign souls went away. Because especially as women, we've been taught we take care of our children, we take care of our significant others, we don't really focus on ourselves. And when we don't listen to ourselves, I know personally, when I don't listen to my inner goddess, I always end up in trouble. It's never good.
It's so true. It's so true. I really like what you said about the goddess being covered up, because in his story, the goddess, the divine feminine, there has been a war against the feminine. And this is important to understand, because there were temples across the world of all different nationalities and creeds of women that gathered. There were traditions, there was matriarchy, there were beautiful statues that symbolized, the divine feminine. And it was not coming together to be better than anyone. That's not what the divine feminine is about. It was about being in touch with the divine and finding like, it's almost like the inner navigation through the divine, being connected, being online with that, right?
Right.
That which is eternal. And there was a feeling of peace and empowerment, and there was a heavy destruction that happened, and annihilation, and I really mean annihilation of the goddess in text, in symbolism, in temples, in statues. But what was so interesting is that archaeologists have found these little goddess statues across the lands as well, and they were buried, like sort of hidden, and they found them in all cultures and all lands. You know, that beautiful goddess, you know, the symbol of the goddess,
right?
And you know, that women used to make. And so there is so much that ties in that is not spoken about. And we have to remember history was created by victors, you know.
Exactly. I was just thinking the very same thing. And, you know, I find it very interesting that the goddess energy, so much of it is finding the sacred in the body. And when patriarchy came along, the body became ultra sexualized. And the goddess brings us back to the sensuality, not the sexual, but the sensual.
Yeah.
And it's so needed. I see it in the men that I have in my life, wanting that sensual, just that warm touch. And I have people coming up to me all the time and going through the process of becoming a pillar of light and really trying to just shed unconditional love on everybody I meet. It's the response that I get is so beautiful and so warm. And when you nurture someone, especially someone that has not had that and is in pain, it's shocking to me how people, their eyes will tear up. You just give them a hug for 10 seconds and they just melt into your arms. And it's not having to do with the sexual. And that's so beautiful. And taking the goddess energy away from this planet the way it has been and pushed it aside has taken that beauty, that feeling of the wind on your skin, you know, the smell of the ocean, the organicness of the goddess saying, I love you. I'm giving you this beauty because I love you and because it represents you, who you are to me. Yes, all of it's so true. Like the softness, you see how the feminine has been distorted in this society, you know, where we've sort of been undervalued. Like any time in the past where that natural flow was there, it was sort of, you know, taken advantage of. It's not honored, not seen for what it was, which was truth and honesty and not anything else, you know. And then I think over time women felt hurt and betrayed and bitter because their love and their naturalness was not received, not accepted. Every magazine tells you to look like this. There's only Kim Kardashian, and that's the only, you know, that's the only goddess reigning on earth. But that's sort of what I call false goddess, because the goddess is, it's an essence. It's not an image. That's where we've gone wrong. They try to, it's not about just looking like a goddess. It's about embodying the heart, the soul of the goddess. And so all the idols of these times, you look into their glazed over empty eyes, and there is no goddess flowing through them. Right. Well, I mean, they're all fake. As you know, I was a Playboy bunny for 4 years in Los Angeles. And I learned a lot from working there. The lesson was I could have gone 10 years in college and not learned about society and men the way I did working there.
I believe it. And,
the one thing, I started working there when I was 20. And I wasn't working serving drinks. I started working in the gift shop area, and I played pool and was the photo bunny, things like that, did promotions, excuse me, for them. And the one thing that I realized, which helped me out a lot, because I was extremely shy. I know that sounds kind of like, why would you be a bunny if you were shy? But it was actually a job that I fell into. I still am quite shy when I'm in a situation where I don't know people, but I realized that the men around me were fantasizing about women who didn't even look like what they thought they looked like. I met quite a few of the centerfolds, and you wouldn't even recognize them in real life because they're so photoshopped. And so then for me, as a young adult trying to find my way, it was pivotal for me to be able to say, I don't need to live up to that, because that doesn't live up to them.
Yeah, it's so true.
You know what I'm saying? It's like, come on, guys. Even if you dated that woman, she doesn't look like that.
Yeah, she doesn't have a hairstylist, a makeup artist, and the perfect lighting and all the Photoshop 24/7.
Yeah,
it's true, and there's been a lot of pressure on the feminine. Like, it's like where our values have been distorted. You know, I know, because I went through the whole thing of having implants that almost killed me, and that basically, you know, I had to undo all that programming, you know. And so what I think the women have been sold a lot of these kind of lies and illusions, and that if you look like this, you're gonna get the love that your heart desires. 1-800-WRONG. In fact, it kind of does the opposite, right? And that's the irony of it. But again, it's nothing to do with the looks. Like, you know, the goddess is so beyond that. She's eternal. In some cases, she doesn't have to have a form even, you know. The goddess, her love, her energy, she can transform and be different archetypes, right? But she herself, the goddess essence and energy, doesn't actually need a form, because she is all whole and complete already.
Right. Well, she's creation, she's creativity, she's beauty, she's absolutely. I mean, my point was just how society has turned women into nothing more than visual pleasure. You know, that's why I brought that up, because
and I agree with you. I think it's a very important point to make, because it's confusing, especially for adolescents, and especially for young women, and even in all ages. You know, it's the messages that keep pulsing and pulsing and pulsing and they never stop pulsing out. They're very distracting and very disturbing. And so we want to come back to the core, to the root, to that truth and essence, because that's where our healing is. That's where we can reclaim ourselves and who we are, you know, rather than being at the mercy of what society wants.
And then that's how we find, only when we find the pieces, the missing pieces to the puzzle, to create a wholeness and a balance within ourselves. And we find our true talents and gifts that were put on this planet at the specific time to share with the rest of, I don't even want to say humanity, because it's so much more than that, with the plants and the animals and just everything that is a sentient being on this planet wants to thrive. Lives off of love. I mean, you pay attention to your plants and they're going to thrive. You ignore them, they're going to die. I taught nutrition for LAUSD for almost 5 years. And when I did, I utilized one of Dr. Emoto, who is a Japanese scientist researcher who is no longer with us on this plane. But he did a research project where he took 3 separate jars of rice, all cooked same exact amount, same exact way, same size jars, all put next to each other. One, he spoke very sweetly to, oh, I love you, you're beautiful. The next one, he was like, oh, you're terrible, you're disgusting, I hate you. And then the third one, he totally ignored. So I actually did this experiment with my kids. And I was able to duplicate his exact results. And we did it over a 30-day period. And the one that was ignored was the worst. It had black mold everywhere. You couldn't tell what was originally in the jar. It was just gross. The one who you spoke nasty to, you know, that one had black mold, brown mold, a little bit of white mold. You could see one or two rice flecks, but it was a mess. It just wasn't as black as the first one. The third one was all white mold, and you could still see the rice. And that was a really, really good way to teach my kids that how you treat yourself, how you respond to yourself, how you respond to others actually changes them on a cellular level. And when we speak kindly to one another, we create beautiful things. And we create a connection that is conducive to life. Whereas the other two ways, the ignoring and the downgrading and the criticism, whether we do it to ourselves or others, creates terrible blackness.
It's so true. It's so true. Yeah. And we live in a culture now that seems to have almost a sport of doing that to people online, like how a very cowardly way of doing, you know, but it's become socially acceptable to cancel people for having an opinion that's different than yours. And, you know, all of these, it's very toxic. We live in a very toxic time, and people are having a hard time, and they lose their way as we go down this cancel culture and all the society that we're breeding this black mold, you know, and we have to say no more. Like, I am stepping out. Like, I grew up with that, like that kind of like hateful conversation, not by my mom, but other caretakers, and that really affected me, and affects you so deeply. And that's something I've had to work through. And I am grateful to the fact that that, you know, our deepest pain and our deepest wounds, if we keep going, and I was a seeker, it leads us to where we need to go. And that sort of led me to my own healing journey, to the goddess activations, and to the goddess who picked me up time after time. You know, I mean, time after time. And she was always there in the darkest hour, in my lowest of lows. And I started to realize I could actually really count on the goddess, you know.
Well, my first experience with goddess was my first dog. You know, and I really do believe that, you know, dog is God spelled backwards for a reason, you know. Because it's that unconditional love that, you know, her name was Love, by the way. And she was always there for me. My mother was very, very sick. I lost her to breast cancer when I was 16, which I explained and touched on briefly in the book.
Yes.
I really walked away from believing that there was a God, because how do you allow someone to go through such pain and agony and distress and leave her children behind, you know, for what? You know, so there was always my little God dog, just saying, it's okay, I love you unconditionally. I don't care if you're going to be mean to me today, you know, and yell at me because you're not in a good place. I'm still going to love you. And without her, and with that, and I think a lot of us are that way with our animals.
Oh,
you know,
yeah.
With so many people that I work with, in my practice, when they feel unconditional love, which is, I'm a Reiki Master, so that's basically what I impart. They've never felt it before. Everything's always been, I will be loved if I do A, B, C, D, E correctly. You know, even with our parents, if you're a good girl, you know, I mean, that's where Santa Claus came about, right?
Yeah, exactly.
The bribery to be a good person, instead of just telling us why we are good people and continue doing it.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly. And that's why, you know, coming into that union with that divine, you know, energy, the goddess, it helps us to remember who we truly are. And I just think that is the truth, you know, that we are able to access our own leadership too, because that is an ally, and it's not something that's going to lead you astray. And that's also interconnected with your own inner goddess. You know, it's and when you have divine devotion, it becomes inseparable. You know, and so that's where we are going. We are the leaders we've been waiting for.
Yes.
We are the ones we've been waiting for, the outcasts and misfits, the rebels, the starseeds, you know, people that feel like they've been thrown away. You have to pull yourself out of that and know that there's so much more waiting for you. You just have to tap into it, and it is available. And when we remember who we are, we can be of great service.
Yeah. The goddess activation process was so pivotal in my life. I find it difficult to find all the words to express my gratitude to you for being my caretaker through that process. Because it did bring back so many memories that I didn't understand. And I keep bringing up like the puzzle pieces, but that's how it was for me. It was like, I was this pretty picture, but there were these pieces missing that just didn't allow me to make sense why I was feeling so stuck and so pissed off and so aggravated by the way things were going, because I was raised to be a good girl and follow, you know, the laws and be a good citizen and do the right thing and take care of people around me. And then I was kind of left this empty vessel after doing that. And the process went, okay, you've experienced this so many times. You've done your job. Yes, you were the good girl, the good boy, whatever the lifetime called for, you know, you did it. And it's okay to rest and just be that light, that opening heart example, because I don't want anybody to follow me, but I would really be very honored for people to look at me and say, wow, she glows. You know, she's happy. I want to be happy like that. And there's, you know, I'm not happy 24/7. You know, it's like somebody said, before enlightenment, cut wood, make fire. After enlightenment, cut wood, make fire. Some things don't change. It's, you know, we're not all going to go live in the mountains, but if the energy that I can put out is 99% positive, I'm going to be okay with that 1% of, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And that's the truth. We are human in human bodies. We are still processing out so much, not only for ourselves, but many and most of us are processing for generations upon generations of our lineage. And so, of course, there are those negative emotions, and I think we honor those too. We honor all of it, but at the core of it, we do desire to be that, you know, beacon of light, because we want everyone's light to activate and awaken. Like, you know, that the last thing anybody wants is to be a guru, I would like to imagine the world with everyone's pillar of light activated. Could you imagine how fun that would be? Finally, we could have a great time.
Oh gosh, yes.
You know,
and we could have a great time without buying into society's view of a good time. You know, we can have a really good time and not spend any money, is my point.
Oh yeah. Oh, absolutely.
You know?
Presence, because if we could all be present for each other, could you imagine the feeling, community? It wouldn't constantly feel like, are you being politically correct? You know, it's like all that is a division. And enough. I think we're tired of it. Like it's like the two same sides of the dark playing trying to pit us all against each other, and they're one team behind closed doors.
Well, the left wing and the right wing are both part of the same person, aren't they? Yeah. And that's kind of where my activism fits in, because you know, I always verbalize the fact that this is not what's going on our planet right now, is not a matter of left and right, blue, green, orange, purple, male, female, whatever's in between. You know, it's not a matter of that. It's a matter of our soul, protecting our soul, protecting the most beautiful element and most important part of our being is not this vehicle that we call a body. And, you know, of course we want to keep it healthy and keep it fit, and, you know, make the best out of it and use it to have fun and love and hold and nurture and dance and sing and take all our talents. And, you know, a very good example of this was a couple of weeks ago. As you know, I had a book signing for Pillars of Light. Yeah. Stories of Goddess Activation. I'm here in Los Angeles at a beautiful home in the top of Topanga, overlooking the ocean. And Alana Starr, who is another co-author on the book, actually blessed us with her sacred songs and sang for us. And a lot of the people that were there are not people that would go to meditation or yoga or whatever. And I could see their hearts opening. And they were holding, most of them actually had their hands over their hearts, and I don't even think they realized it. Yeah. And when I was reading off my chapter to them, there are some very emotional parts for me, and I started crying, and people cried with me. And at the end of it, one of my friends that was there said, "Oh, did you notice all the 5G towers? Did you feel it?" And I said, "No, I didn't, because I was putting out a different frequency. I was sending out Reiki to the ocean, which just happened to be in the direction of all the 5G towers that I did not see, because I was not in the vibration to see it." And I think that when people understand that they raise their vibration, a lot of this negativity will actually fall away.
Yes, I agree. I feel like that's just the truth. I feel like we are the ones we've been waiting for. Therefore, when we activate our light within, and we are making our own light grid together, together. That's why it's pillars. Pillars create the grid. And I see it so clearly, you know, it's like this beautiful light grid, and we are that powerful. You know, and that's what we have to remember. And the naysayers, it's not in their field of understanding just yet, but it will be, because if everybody keeps lighting up and it keeps shifting, they will see, you know. And again, it's not about proving anything, because that's so beside the point. The point is, we really want a better world. We want a better world for all of us.
Well, I mean, a good visual that I can share is, there's 10 people and they're walking through the forest, And if one person shines a light, that's great. A few people will be able to benefit from that. But if all 10 people turn on their flashlight, everybody gets to see everything around them.
Woo!
Right?
That's it. That's it. I love that analogy. Exactly. When we light up, we help to illuminate, and every one of us matters. Everyone matters. And we're all a soul family team. The sooner we can remember that, the better, because it's been really tough with this division. It's painful. It actually physically hurts the way it just makes me very sad. But nonetheless, we continue to do our work and we continue to rise, because it is our job. It's our purpose. And in that purpose, we're really helping Planet Mother Gaia as well, because she is a goddess. She's a living, breathing goddess. Everything that comes from her is a goddess, you know?
Yes. And she does breathe. I mean, this has scientifically been proven. And it's crazy, but it's a totally different vibration that tells us something else. And humans need to hear something 10 times before they take it into their own psyche, and from different people. So, I never give up in the way where, there might be somebody who's a little resistant to like getting a hug, right? I don't want to infringe on their space, but I'll kind of look at them and go, are you in the hugging mood today? Because I know if I can get them one hug out of like the 10 times, they're going to start to realize that when you make a physical heart-to-heart connection, I do like to hug in the way where it's my heart to their heart, because that does actually spark vibrational frequencies that are healing and boost our immune system, especially if it's like 7, 8, 9, 10 seconds. So, all of these things that we do just as human beings naturally, they all have a reason. When I started doing Reiki, and I realized when you go into a hospital, most of us will take somebody's hand and hold their hand. Well, that's a chakra. So we're doing chakra to chakra, and we are transmuting energy and sharing energy and transferring energy that's very healing in that moment.
That's so true. That's so true. It's really, we don't know how powerful we are, but there is such a power in just the intention of like the intention, like I want you to get better, and hand to hand, and those chakras, and you're holding it and you're making that prayer of intention. Our intentions are powerful, and that's why we can't be doing what we've been doing to each other, which is and I mean like the collective, like the canceling. We need to have conversations, not cancel. This is the most ridiculous thing. How are we going to get through tough things by going deeper, by having deeper compassion and conversations, not by shutting people out.
I used to love debate. There used to be debate classes and debate clubs in school where they would just give you a subject. Okay, you're anti this. Okay. And then you do a little research, and then you come out and talk about why you're, anti that. And nobody hit each other over the head about it, And I think it's again, when I talk about, and I know when you talk about the goddess energy, it's not about it being better or worse. It's about bringing balance back. And acknowledging there are powers that men have and powers that women have, and we share some, and then there are some that we don't have. I mean, the reason why the goddess was taken over, because there was a physical power of men over women, and that is what allowed them to silence and kill off large populations of women during different times, where it was easier to label us bad than try to understand why we bled and still lived. I mean, that's pretty intimidating, I can imagine. But, we have to understand that as we talk to each other, thoughts become things. I mean, this is something that a gentleman named Mike Dooley really taught me. And, that's attached to like The Secret, and Bob Proctor, who was, wonderful, who just passed away. who talks about, be careful what you say to yourself and others, because that is planting a seed. And the more you water that seed, the more that seed grows. I remember many years ago, a woman named Jennifer McLean, you can still find her online. She gets together with intentions and affirmations that are worldwide. And they've been able to prove that when people pray, you can say pray or meditate over peace collectively. They did that with Chicago, and the violence pretty much stopped during that. So we need to treat each other with love and kindness, and we need to accept what our own experiences are, because I know I came into this world very empathetic, and being able to hear people's thoughts and being able to know things were going to happen before they happened, and be told by my big brother, who was 13 years older than me, that I looked up to very much, that I was crazy, and if I didn't shut up, my parents were going to put me in a rubber suit in a rubber room. So I put myself in the closet, and I negated all of these beautiful things that Spirit was telling me. And I didn't develop them, and I started to believe that there was something wrong with me. And when you feel that there's something wrong with you, you don't engage in society in a positive way. And
that's the truth.
And as I grew older, the experience that I had with my son, I was 35. I was able to kind of go back into accepting some of these things, because it was so blatant with my child, who didn't have anybody telling him, think this way, don't think that way, that we just have to know that we have an innate emotional intelligence. And if we think we are experiencing something, we probably are. Those kids that played with their invisible friends, I don't think they're non-existent anymore. When I see someone walking down the street talking to themselves, I don't automatically go to that person's crazy. I go to, I wonder who that person's talking to.
Yeah.
And it helps, because I see them as not being damaged.
Yeah.
And maybe if they saw themselves as not being damaged, maybe they would start healing as well.
Yeah, well, that's like the programming, is that somebody programmed empaths and psychics and intuitives to feel there's something wrong with them, because they couldn't stand it. It scared them. And that's part of the programming. But then it's true what you said, like then if you're always told you're a horrible, rotten person, what do you think is going to happen when somebody gets older? They're going to act like that until they can find their way back to who they truly are. And it's not really their fault if that's the programming. So we are unraveling this tight grip of darkness that's really been around all of these sensitive beings on earth. I really can't think of one empath, healer, starseed, psychic that hasn't had a very, very, very challenging childhood where all the odds were against them, and they were told that they're nothing, and they're told that they're crazy, and they're told, they're tormented by the adults or whatever.
And that comes out in the book, in the different chapters. It's expressed so beautifully in so many different ways, but the same thing, just the beating up of, it's almost like the Cinderella story. It's like the one person that really wants to love and wants to bring beauty to the world and wants to shine and wants to just love everybody. I just want to love everybody. I want everybody to be happy. I want to I've been to places where, people are in a room and everybody is sharing their gifts. This is the talent that I have. I'm going to sing for you. I'm going to play the drums.
Yeah.
I know this healing. I experienced at the Conscious Life Expo a few years back. And it was just, it's like, why can't every day be like this?
I agree. Nothing makes me happier than bringing together people and seeing everyone share their gifts, because it activates all of us. It helps all of us. When one person shares their gift, it awakens our own, and it's not competition, it's love, it's beauty, it's inspiration. I did a women's retreat where every one of us shared something, and it was so invigorating. I mean, I cried and cried and laughed, and we howled, and we all shared something. And that is what this is about. That's what this book is about. That's what the Goddess Activations is about. Yeah. Every woman has her medicine. Every woman has her gift. And every woman has her archetype. Well, she has multiple archetypes, but usually one main archetype with many, many others,
And for the most part, when you share those gifts, it is received in such a beautiful way. And those that don't receive it in a good way, that's your higher self saying, walk away. This is the dark.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's like, at some point their vibration will be raised, but you're just done. I'm personally done. If somebody can't receive love in a positive way, then that's okay. But I can love them from afar.
Absolutely.
I don't have to send them anything negative. I can love them from afar. And I don't know if you ever read the series Conversations with God.
Yeah.
Don Walsh is the author.
Yeah, because I'm from Ashland, and I believe he was in that, from Ashland.
Yeah, that literally saved my life. When I was turned on to that book, I was going through my divorce, and I was becoming a single mom of a 3-year-old. And I didn't know, I didn't have, really family to lean on or anybody to lean on. I was pretty much by myself. And when I started reading that book, it's hard because you read things like, Hitler, we perceive Hitler as being a bad guy, but he opened up people's eyes to the true evil that we can experience on this planet.
Mm-hmm.
And that we can't just trust people, by what's on their surface. And it was a question. What do you want? How do you want society to be? And so therefore it was kind of a gift. Now for me, that was really hard. That was really, really hard because my family is Jewish. My grandmother's German, so I have family that were really seriously involved in the Holocaust. But then as I started to read further into how he was expressing things, that we all come here to experience different parts of our divinity, whether it be to be kind or to be generous or to be forgiving. We have to experience things that bring that out. So to be forgiving, somebody has to do something that you need to forgive.
Mm-hmm.
So that means another soul has decided that for your growth, they're going to come here and be that negativity, be that darkness.
Yeah.
And when I read that, wow, it blew my mind.
Yeah, that it's at times so hard to be like, okay, but I feel like when we soften into the goddess, soften and that safe, sacred space, it makes sense. It absolutely makes sense. But, in the day-to-day life, it could be very, very frustrating and like, how could that be? And that's why I like sometimes past life regressions, because at times I've seen where, okay, in this lifetime, that person played the bad guy. And then this lifetime, they're perceiving me as the bad guy. we volunteered at some level to play roles for each other, just like actors, at some level.
Yes.
It feels so real though. It feels so real. And it's very challenging. And so, I've been saying, I'm sorry, please forgive me. Thank you. I love you. Because we have different, it's called parts of self. So we may have a part of self that's a little girl, right? And a part of self that is the teenager, and a part of ourself that is like the vixen, and a part of ourself that's like a grandma inside. You know what I mean? We can have all of that.
Even the part inside that's the husband.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And that's okay. I mean, we're at the same time we are everything, but we don't have to be everything to everybody.
Yeah.
And so many of us have tried in our lives to, we just want to make everybody around us happy. But those of us that do that very rarely make ourselves happy.
And also very rarely make everyone happy, because no one could be happy about everything. And some people want to be unhappy, and that's part of nothing you could do could make them happy. And I think that's for the empaths and the healers that were somewhat abused as a child, and they wanted peace, they wanted love, they really wanted that, and also as a survival skill, they needed it, because they tried to be the peacemakers, because they in order to survive in certain environments, that's what it comes down to as a child. And so unlearning and I think that's kind of like the good girl syndrome, which is you're rewarded when you're good and you're pleasing and you make everybody happy. And that's just not realistic. That's not realistic. And sometimes, the Kali is appropriate for certain situations, and that is appropriate. That is absolutely appropriate. So I'm not one of those people that is like, I believe in kindness and love, but I also believe each situation has its appropriate approach,
Yeah, well, there is tough love. I have a son, he's going to be 28, and he, he'll say, oh, I'm going to do A, B, C, D, E. And I'm like, no, I really think you should rethink that. And then I just say, look, I'm your mom, so I'm going to be, the things that I say are going to be, I want to protect you. But you're a grown man. You don't have to listen to me. But you do have to let me say it, because that's my job. I will always want to protect you and have you and see you be safe and happy and loved. That brings joy to my life. But the reality is, I know I'm not trying to control you in any way. I'm just saying, I think that's a dumb idea. You shouldn't do that.
I think that's fantastic, because you're also leaving room for freedom. And then when you create that kind of space too, I think people would tend to go toward big. They would think about it. Whereas if you're like, absolutely not, guess what? They're going to do the absolute opposite. That's just how it is.
Right, because we all want to express our power.
Yeah.
I mean, I was like that. It's like, but tell me what I can't do so that I can go do it.
Yeah.
And tell me twice and I'll do it twice.
Yeah.
No, my head's not bleeding.
Yeah. It's so funny, but so true. That was me growing up too. Okay, tell me no. And I also feel like I played out a lot of, like the black sheep in the family. Like I played out a lot of the shadow stuff, because most people in the family aren't willing to look at it. So somebody actually has to. It is actually. There is an unspoken obligation, soul contract, that somebody in the family has to play out the unspoken, shadowy stuff that everyone tries to hide under the rug, right? And so that's the other part too. And so the more that we can embody our own shadows, the more that we don't have to leave that for our children to do for us, because they will do it, because that's what love, you know, soul love on a higher level is sometimes, is it has to be seen, and the shadows can never hide, ever. They have to come to the surface. And so that's, I really like the goddess, because she is in so many forms, and I love the shadow aspects of the goddess, like Lilith and Kali, and you know, the aspects that have been demonized, because when you embody and like, you know, accept those parts that are forbidden or are angry, that rageful woman that's within, like, sometimes that's really appropriate. You know what I mean?
Oh, of course. You can't poke the bear and expect the bear not just to sit there. Come on.
Exactly. Like, we're not going to sit here and be nice while you're being abusive. That's not going to happen. So the goddess it's not just about being one flavor, one color. The goddess is everything, all aspects, and gave me so much permission. And then I realized that I could recognize that goddess in women and realize they have so many flavors, and it's beautiful to discover. It is so empowering to activate those aspects. And when you do it like that, you are integrating, and therefore we don't have to cast those shadows out. We can own what we own. We can be what we are. And there's no apology for it as long as we're not really hurting people. We can be who we are, in other words. And that's very important. It's very important, because we are not clones. We are divine, unique, individual sparks of light, you know?
Right.
We don't want to be clones.
And there is the, you know, the reaching for the balance within that, because if you're angry all the time, nobody respects that. Nobody wants to be around that. You know, but if you're more balanced throughout most of your life, and then you become angry, people listen because it's a shock to them. Oh my gosh, why is Kory raising her voice? She never raises her voice.
Yep.
But if you're always raising your voice, no one's going to pay attention, and you can be crying out for help, and no one's going to be listening. It's like the kid that cried wolf, right?
Exactly. Yeah, it's not sustainable. It's not sustainable. We want to be balanced. And I think that's the whole point, is that we want to embody and own all parts, so that we can balance them. Because if we can really see them all, and know them all, and be like, okay, that's not appropriate. Like, let's, you know, love is always a first go-to, you know, love and kindness. And
right.
You know,
coming from an artist's perspective, wouldn't you agree that it's kind of like having a box of paints? You have all those paints there, you don't use them all the time together. You know? And you need the black paint sometimes, and you need the loud red paint sometimes. And then you also need the space in between, which is the white space, which is really important to artists.
That's beautiful analogy. Exactly. So we have all of that, and each goddess represents a color and that energy and essence, and it's so beautiful, and it's fun. It's really fun. I mean, it's not like, you know, going through goddess activations. I don't think it's like, maybe you don't think it's fun when you're going through it, because it's pretty, you know, you're going
intense.
into intense, deeper aspects.
let's not spare words.
Yeah. They're pretty hardcore. They're intense. They go deep. I mean, really, really deep. But there is also something exciting about being an explorer and exploring those parts of yourself, because in that, you know, you come out knowing more of who you are and all the colors you have available. And at least that's how I see it, you know. For me, it's fun because I love going deep, you know. And it's like you can't do that day to day, right? You can't just do that in a conversation usually.
Yeah.
So there's something and there's something beautiful about being a divine witness to someone's incredible soul.
Well, it's kind of like being at a birth. It is totally being at a birth, the rebirthing of that person's higher self, acknowledgement of who and what, and, you know, it's and the clearing of any guilt, or, you know, if we've done something in a past life, we have to acknowledge we cannot go back and change that experience. We can only learn from it and make the decision to not go forward in the same way.
Yeah.
And that's birthing, and that's beautiful. I have friends that are doulas, and you know, and the stories that they tell me about witnessing it, this, you know, these births is kind of what I'm hearing and feeling from you, saying how you feel taking people through your process.
That's it. I really do feel that. It's like, it's like I'm witnessing, the birth canal, and also the birth of who you know, we truly are. And it's like, that's divine. It's so beautiful because we are such amazing beings. And I love witnessing others in their divinity. And it's like being a doula. It really is. And you know, because you're an incredible healer yourself.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, you are an incredible healer. And what share with us the modalities that you do.
Well, my main focus is Reiki. I'm a Reiki Master teacher. I've been in practice for over 20 years. I've been an energy healer most of my life, but use my own energy to do it. This is the universal life force energy. So it comes from the divine through me. It's not involved in any religion at all. But I also do color therapy. I use crystal healing. I use clinical aromatherapy. I'm a trained nutritional coach. Like I said, that's what I did working for LAUSD. And so all of it fits, you know, when I taught nutrition and when I teach private clients, I'm also a gourmet raw food chef. Wow. So I bring health into every aspect of what I impart on people, depending on how open they are, and if they're willing to actually make changes. Because if you keep doing the same thing over and over again, you get the same results. You know, people get diagnosed with cancer, and then they keep doing exactly, you know, they go in and they get cut up and they get radiated, which depletes your immune system, but that's neither here nor there. But then they go back to doing the same habits that got them in that position in the first place. The stinking thinking, the eating the sad American diet, which is, you know, very minimal in nutrition. And, you know, you've got to be open to wanting to heal. So many people are seeing through their illness, and therefore they keep themselves in that space, and they just fight so hard to be in that space, because if I'm not sick, I'm not loved.
Oh, that's so true. That is actually a belief.
Yeah,
that's a belief.
Yeah.
So belief work is really important, and it's really wonderful to have the full gamut, because then you can go in and be like, okay, is this a belief? Or is this something that passed down to you? Is it something that your, you know, family did?
Exactly. Yeah. So I incorporate all those things, and I do it in a way where I make them and hold them responsible for their healing. You know, I tell them from the get-go, I'm just the straw. And it just depends on what you decide to suck up.
I love that.
You know, I can't make you take 2 sucks if you only want 1 suck. You know? but I am here to give you tools if you choose to take them. You know, and I'm going to put you in a place where you're going to experience unconditional love. And you're going to determine whether that's what you're going to expect from life going forward or not.
I love that. And that's the truth. Everyone has to take responsibility for their own experience, you know?
Yes.
Because
it doesn't matter what someone did to us before, because that is gone. And it's so hard to get out of that. We all know. I know you've been through it. I've been through it. All of my co-authors in Pillars have gone through it. The stories are devastating. And for so many women to open up their lives, I mean, this is the Me Too movement. You know, this is what it should be, is figuring out why we allowed that to happen in the first place and how we can stop it from happening going forward.
That's a powerful statement. Thank you. That's so powerful. That is something I thought was so important. And I really felt it's women, we have to share our stories, because if we read them, you will see how similar, you know, totally different upbringings, totally different experiences, but there are through lines of the same sort of experiences, you know, abuses, and I think, you know, across the board, we have to talk about these things, and they're sort of like the forbidden fruits, right? We're not supposed to talk about it.
Because it makes everybody uncomfortable.
It makes people uncomfortable, but I think it's liberating.
Right. Well, but because it makes people uncomfortable, I feel, because it opens up the window to the experiences and the shadows in their lives. And we've chosen to be awakened to it. They haven't.
That's the truth. That's true. Absolutely true. It makes people who don't want to look at what's really going on in this world uncomfortable. And maybe people who have suppressed memories of their own and don't want to deal with it.
Yes.
And so I understand, like, you know, people, it actually activates people and some people even get enraged about it. But that's okay. That's, you know what, if that's what it takes for them to awaken, to start to do the clearing, well, okay, you know, but for the most part, I feel for like 99.9% of the feedback has been like, thank you, because I needed to know I wasn't the only person that went through this or that or the other. Like, I needed to know that, like, something isn't wrong with me. Like, this is something these themes are actively going on in this world. And why should we put our head in the sand? Who does that help? How can we be of service when we do that? Yes. You know, I like to bring the shadows to the light, and it does make people uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But it also brings so much healing to people.
Well, it's kind of funny because I just had my birthday at the beginning of the month. It's February 2nd, and that's Groundhog's Day. So every year I tell my friends, they can call me and I'll tell them whether I see my shadow. So, I mean, that's been all my life. My dad used to come in and get me when I was little and literally pull me outside in the morning to see my shadow. And then on Facebook, if my prediction is different than Punxsutawney Pete, I say lies, 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 all given to you by the man. You know, and it's, you know, you have to see that shadow, and you have to laugh at that shadow. You know, and if your shadow isn't there, that means there's no light around you.
Thank you for saying that. Thank you for saying that. That's really an important point. I really appreciate that. That's, you know, you're a very courageous woman, Kory. I admire you. I've always admired you. You have so much heart and so much soul and so much courage too. And you speak your truth, and I've always admired that about you. Like, you always think of the whole, so you're not gonna play small because you're thinking of the whole. you know, and how can the truth be of service? And I just think it's so beautiful, and I encourage everyone to be like that, you know, like give it a try, like, you know, hang out with Kory, you'll understand.
and you know, all those things and more I see in you and have found in you, and just the fact that you're giving this platform for, you know, people like me to share my voice, my experience, is just such a beautiful thing. I mean, if, you know, people listening to this could, I mean, we all see you and know that you're gorgeous, but could actually feel that inner gorgeousness that comes from your heart, and it literally comes from your toes and up all the way, and the sharing and the giving and the love and the warmth. I just hope that everybody can experience that. And if anybody out there listening to this has even an inkling of going through the process with you, I just, you know, say yes, do it, because it's such a gift. And once you get that gift and you've experienced it, and you can integrate it, then you can go out into the world and put a smile on your face and share it with others just by being. You don't really have to do anything. You become a magnet. You know, and not only do you become a magnet to people that are open to being that light themselves, because the darkness will fall away. The darkness runs. The rats run when you shine the light on them.
Ooh, powerful.
And we have to stop being afraid of being that light, because, you know, when I work with people and I work with food, and I explain to them that if you put real nutrition into your body, your emotions level out. Yes, you'll get sad. Yes, you'll be ecstatic, but you won't have these bipolar ups and downs. They just don't exist anymore. And when we're like that, when we're more even keeled, the more people want to be around us, and the more accepting of us people are. You know, if you go off crazy screaming at everybody, no one's going to pay attention or want to be around you, because that's such lower energy. But you know, this is just the gift that you're giving people in bringing this process to fruition in this world, especially at this time, Rada. I'm so blessed and so honored by you, my star sister.
Oh, thank you, Kory. I feel the exact same way. I'm thinking, wow, I would love to learn more about holistic eating from you. That's something that's on my list, so we'll have to talk about that afterwards, because, you know, we're all here to share these gifts, and if anyone else is looking for nutritional health or holistic healing, I'm putting Kory's information down below, as well as her email, because you can order a book directly from her and she can sign it, and you know, it's just a beautiful thing, a beautiful energy exchange. And I think you're gonna love her chapter and be deeply inspired by it. So thank you so very much.
Can I just say one administrative thing? My email is being worked on right now. I'm redoing it, so I really don't know how much is still up and how much isn't, because unfortunately it was on an old platform, and a lot of it just kind of disappeared. So please bear with me, because I'm in the process of getting it all back up, and it's going to be beautiful and a lot easier to go through.
I actually am excited, because I'm feeling a huge rebirth energy in this extension of yourself as well. You know?
Yes, it's much lighter.
Yes, I'm so excited. Congratulations on that. So whatever contact information you want to leave, but just know that you can reach out to Kory, and you know, for any of her resources, whether that be, you know, in her cooking or holistic eating or healing, or grabbing a copy of the book, you know, it's all for the highest good, and I know that you'll get something out of it. So thank you so much, Kory. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you grab your copy of Pillars of Light, Stories of Goddess Activations, and that it deeply you know, inspires you to step into your full fruition and rebirth. So much love to you all. Namaste.